Good morning and welcome to worship today. My name is Jeremy and I'm the shared ministry pastor for Abundant Life Lutheran Church and Prince of Peace Lutheran Church. And wherever you are, however you are joining us, we are happy that you are joining us here for worship today. Today is a really special Sunday for the church. It's Pentecost Sunday. It's the Sunday that we remember the birth of the church, how the church was born out of this incredible event where the disciples were all gathered in the upper room and the Holy Spirit blew through the room and tongues of fire appeared on their heads and they were drawn out into the street to proclaim the message of Jesus to all those around in all sorts of different languages. So it's this incredible story, and what a better way to celebrate it than with a youth service. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to have a youth service, and all of our youth are from a combined youth group with different congregations, with Sherwood Park Lutheran Church and St. Luke's Zion, and our two congregations as well, Abundant Life and Prince of Peace. So this is really exciting, and I hope that you really enjoy. The youth will be taking care of pretty much all of the service. So, before we know it, they're going to be running the place. So they're doing the readings, they're doing the music, they've got a skit prepared for you, and they're helping out with the children's sermon. And so a big thanks especially to Lisa Van Dijk, our youth minister, who coordinated this and brought all the youth together to do these different parts of the service. Also big thanks to Kostna and the Kostna family for doing the children's message today. So with all of that, I would invite you to begin by taking a moment of silence just to prepare your hearts for worship. So let's do that now. Let's begin with our gathering song, Start a Fire.
I God of wind and fire, you gave your disciples the mandate to be your witness around the world and empowered them with your Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost to accomplish this task. Today, we ask that you help us to refocus our attention as we face a task unfinished. We thank you that you have given us boldness to proclaim the gospel. Remind us to use your power to do the work you have given us. Amen.
A reading from Acts 2, verse 1 to 21. When the day of Pentecost had come, the disciples were all together in one place. And suddenly from heaven there came a sound like the rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Divided tongues as of fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages, as the Spirit gave them the ability. Now there were devout Jews from every nation under heaven living in Jerusalem, and at this sound the crowd gathered and was bewildered, because each one of them heard them speaking in the native tongues of each. Amazed and astonished, they asked, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And that is how we hear, each of us in our own native language." Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and residents of Mesopotamia, Judea and Cappadocia, Pontus and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt and the parts of Libya belonging to Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes, Cretans and Arabs, and in our own languages, we hear them speaking about God's deeds of power. All were amazed and perplexed, saying one to the other, "What does this mean?" But others sneered and said, "They are filled with new wine." But Peter said, standing with the 11, raised his voice and addressed them, "Men of Judea and all who live in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and listen to what I say. Indeed, these are not drunk, as you suppose, for it is only 9 o'clock in the morning. No, this is what is spoken through the prophet Joel.
In the last days it will be, God declares, that I pour out my Spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy. And your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Even upon my slaves, both men and women, in those days I will pour out my Spirit, and they shall prophesy. And I will show portents in the heaven above and signs on the earth below, blood and fire and smoky mist. The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the Lord's great and glorious day. Then everyone who calls the name of the Lord shall be saved."
1 Corinthians 12. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brothers and sisters, I do not want you to be uninformed. You know that when you were pagans, you were enticed and led astray to idols that could not speak. Therefore, I want you to understand that no one speaking by the Spirit of God ever says, "Let Jesus be cursed," and no one can say Jesus is Lord except by the Holy Spirit. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit, and there are varieties of services, but the same Lord, and there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who activates all of them in everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. To one is given through the Spirit the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge according to the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the one Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another the discernment of spirits, to another various kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. All these are activated by one and the same Spirit, who allots to each one individually just as the Spirit chooses. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Christ. For in the one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, Jews or Greeks, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Spirit.
When the day of Pentecost had come, all the believers were gathered at the Lutheran church. Suddenly there was a noise from the sky, which sounded like a strong wind blowing, and it filled the whole church while they were sitting. Then they saw what looked like tongues of fire, which spread out and touched every person there.
Then they saw what looked like tongues of fire which spread out and touched every person there.
Fire! Did someone say fire? Don't worry, I'm here to help.
Then they were all filled with the Holy Spirit and were able to speak other languages, as the Spirit gave them the ability.
These people talking like this, they are all Lutheran youth. What's going on? How can this be? They are all speaking in their own languages. We are all from different places. Some of us are young, some of us are seniors. Some of us live far from the church and some live just next door. Some of us are new to this church and some have gone here our entire lives. Some of us are married and some of us are single. Some of us are new Canadians and some of us are third generation Canadians.
But all of us can hear them speaking in a language we understand. They are all talking about the great things God has done.
How is this possible?
What does this mean?
Look at them! They sound ridiculous. These people are drunk!
And I will tell you what this means. These people are not drunk. They have not been sipping the communion wine. 10 in the morning is way too early for that. This is actually a really old prophecy. Here, let me read it to you. In the last days, God says, I will pour out my spirit on everyone. Your sons and daughters will proclaim my message. Your young men will see visions, and your old men will dream dreams. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my spirit in those days, and they will proclaim my message. I'll perform miracles in the sky above and wonders on the earth below. There will be blood, fire, and thick smoke. The sun will be darkened, and the moon will turn red as blood, before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord. And everyone who calls out to the Lord for help will be saved.
The end. Thank you for watching.